Hey, welcome to Shame on News. We're here with, it's me, it's Joe, it's Dave, and Jake from Shame on News. Hope you guys can subscribe down below, and welcome to all the new subscribers. Recently, PewDiePie, all that stuff about him has been going on. We've been talking about that, but we've also been talking about Milo Yiannopoulos, who's always seemingly in the news. But recently he was on an episode of Bill Maher, which I loved, by the way. I'm somebody who's actually a fan of Bill Maher and Milo Yiannopoulos, crazy as that may seem. So I enjoy them. I disagree with some of each of their points, but I would almost like those two guys in control of a decision being made, because I feel that we could get something honest out of them. But him being on that show really put him to the forefront and really, as I expected, put him under fire. And what he's under fire for now is that he's a pedophile. Apparently, there's people are saying he's a pedophile or he supports pedophilia. Now, the video that I heard had him explaining what really he believed pedophilia was, which was undeveloped sex organs and things like that, and not older children. But it was a very confusing thing to listen to him say. I wasn't quite clear on exactly what he was talking about, but it seems that one side's quick to defend him completely, and the other side is quick to just say that he supports pedophilia. But actually, the videos and sound clips that they're using to defend him, he actually says that it is not pedophilia, because he sees pedophilia as this. So he's not even speaking of pedophilia, but yet they called him supporting pedophilia. Maybe Dave.
One of the issues is, like you said, with quote unquote fake news and everything that's going on there. People are taking everything that was said either A, out of context, or B, they're editing it and manipulating it and putting it out there. And it's all improperly used, and that's a huge problem. They take one quote and then they cut it up, and it makes him sound like a total monster. He says here, I'm certainly guilty of imprecise language. I shouldn't have used the term boy, which gay men often use to describe young men of consenting age instead of young man. That was an error. And Milo added, there are relationships between younger men and older men that can help a young gay man escape from a lack of support or understanding at home. That's perfectly true, and every gay man knows it, but I was not talking about anything illegal, and I was not referring to prepubescent boys. Period. I do not support pedophilia. It is a vile and disgusting crime, and perhaps the very worst.
Does anyone really think that Milo went on these
before we go on,
yeah.
A portion of what Jake read also, I believe at the beginning, Milo Yiannopoulos actually says that he was a victim of sexual abuse.
Yes.
Okay. Now, another thing that people need to understand is, and this is psychology, and if you've ever met anybody that has had to deal with this sort of hardship, you understand it as well. But people who have suffered from sexual abuse, there's several ways that they do cope with it. And
by sexually abusing someone?
No. Being sexually abused as a child.
Well, what I want to quickly throw out there is that a lot of people that are sexually abused as a child tend to grow up to be sexual abusers.
No, that's true. I will not deny that. I will not. The statistics actually show this. Unfortunately, it's quite disproportionate to the heterosexual population. But that being said, we're not saying. But on this show, we're not saying all gay people are pedophiles. And that's another thing that we have to understand here is that's what they're doing with Milo Yiannopoulos. Because basically this video, the snippets of the videos that have been put out are from two different videos. There's from the Joe Rogan interview that happened over a year ago, as well as with the Amazing Atheist. And that was a Google Hangouts. And essentially they took a lot of what he was saying out of context. And but again, that was over a year ago that it was done, and only now this is coming out. And if you have a good understanding as to how political blackmail works, you know that as soon as this stuff is available on the market, if you want to call it that in quotations, it's easily able to be brought out and destroy somebody's political career, like that Republican representative in Florida. I can't remember his name right now, but basically he was totally anti-gay marriage and all this like anti-gay stuff. And it turns out that he was soliciting underage boys through a website as prostitutes. So, I mean, we're not like, obviously there are people that try to portray themselves as a certain way,
right,
but in fact are the total opposite. But if you take a look at what Milo has said and his record, if you take a look at that, the fact that only now these attacks are coming out, and it coincides particularly well with the fact there's basically an internal war with the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
You have Rand Paul right now.
Is he really a Republican, though? He's more of a, like, he leans conservative, but...
Well, he's the, representative of the
even
alt-right.
himself would say, well, I'm not...
No, that's the thing. He's not a representative of the alt-right. The alt-right basically formed around him, but he's never, ever claimed to be a member of the alt-right. He's never claimed to be a leader of the alt-right. I mean, even like, say, Richard Spencer, who there's so much controversy around. And I mean, we could go into that in another episode, but, you've got the Zig Heils, you've got the supposed... like Nazi salutes, which didn't happen, but okay. You've got that controversy surrounding, Spencer there. But the fact is, the same thing has happened to him. He's never claimed to be a member of the alt-right. He's never claimed to be a leader of the alt-right. But the media just says, oh, well, he's on the right. You've got all these people tweeting his name. He must be alt-right. Boom. So they've done the same to Milo. And the fact is, there's members of the alt-right, and there are Nazis in the which is kind of it doesn't make sense because Nazis are socialists, but there are Nazis, there are like supremacists, racial supremacists in the right that actually hate Milo. They want to kill him. They don't want him to represent anything from the right. And then you've got people on the far left, like the gay extremists, who basically say he doesn't think like we do, so therefore he doesn't represent gay people.
Yeah.
So there's division on both sides of the political spectrum. But if you look at what Milo says, if you look at the record that's been existing for over a year, Milo has never come out and said, I endorse pedophilia. And in fact, he's outed 3 guys, like guys that were, trying to hide what they were doing. He outed them and said, this guy's a pedophile. Look what he did. Here's all the statistics for it. And
3 times he's done that.
So,
but they do this. They do this to Milo all the time. They did this to him with Twitter with who's the chick from Ghostbusters, whatever her name is.
Leslie Jones. Yes.
It's the same thing. He calls her an ugly piece of shit or something. He says he hates the movie, and then
he came out and even publicly admitted, I compared her to a man because she looks like one.
She looks like a man.
Now, to be honest, that's offensive for her, maybe. To be quite honest, also,
get off Twitter.
True. She doesn't look feminine.
Get off Twitter.
But it's his right to fucking insult people.
Yeah, but it's her right to block him. Listen, if this guy's calling you a dog, fine, unblock him. But he gets suspended from Twitter because they said he's a racist or something. And so it's like they're calling him a racist, but now he's a pedophile. So he's just everything. Because
here's more important. We really sorry to interrupt again, but
when I see the video of him banging a kid, then I'll call him a pedophile.
You know what shuts down conversations most of the time in like current Western society is if you call somebody a racist or you call somebody a pedophile. At that point, they're branded as totally evil. They can't get a word in. And we've seen so many cases where individuals have basically been branded a racist or a pedophile. They weren't actually guilty of that, but their career was ruined. Some people ended up committing suicide because, everyone was convinced of this lie. And the biggest problem of people these days is that we react too emotionally. Why don't we wait until all these facts come out before we make a judgment about Milo Yiannopoulos and what potentially may or may not have occurred? I mean, if we jump on everything that happens immediately from a Twitter headline, I mean, we'd go nuts.
Everybody just wants to believe the hype, and that's about it.
Going back to Leslie Jones, though, the exact thing that was said, he said, am I not entitled to give a bad review of a movie? I said she looked like a dude. She does. I said that she was barely literate, which she is. And I simply don't accept that an A-list Hollywood celebrity is sitting at home crying over mean words on the internet. And the reason I'm going back to this is because she recently spoke out against and then for Milo. She originally said, you still help them spread their hate to even more people. But now she changed her tune and gave Milo advice on this entire situation with the whole pedophilia comments. She told Milo on Twitter to stop feeding the trolls, basically to stop engaging in people's comments.
Now, Milo's been branded a Nazi, but basically he is a gay British of Greek descent Jew by birth who's converted to Catholicism, which again, we know in, biblical terms that there are certain prescriptions for people that are gay. And even with that confliction, he's chosen to be Catholic. Now,
exactly.
Despite what issues I might have with any religions, it's his choice. He's chosen that, and it's his total right to do so. So, considering the minestrone soup that he is, he's a mix of all these different things. How can people be claiming that he's homophobic when he's gay, that he's anti-Semitic when he's born Jewish, that he's anti-Christian when he's converted to Catholicism? It's insane that they're picking at all these little straws when
grasping,
Yeah, when in fact that he has a total right to what he thinks, and it seems quite obvious that there is a clear bias towards him, and that they're just trying to pick him apart with all these little issues that are sort of conflicting. I mean, he's the opposite of the victim that you're trying to portray him as.
Exactly. Well, the funny part is that Charlie Sykes said on Twitter, anti-Semitism, okay. Racism, okay. Alt-right, okay. But the advocacy of pedophilia, that's the bridge too far, And it's like all the other issues you've had with him and everything that's happened and the attempts to silence him entirely. Now they use this in such a way that today he just held a press conference about an hour ago where not only did Milo resign from Breitbart, but he rescinded his invitation to the CPAC, and he had to cancel a book deal as well.
I find all three unacceptable because, quite honestly, this is clearly an attempt to character assassinate him and make him look like a bad guy. And I think it's funny that Salon,
who started this?
Salon.com basically published articles promoting pedophilia, and you can look this up. What did they do the day that they published the Milo article? They deleted that article first and then published Milo's article. So basically, at one point, they were promoting pedophilia. But now we've got someone who disagrees with our narrative, so we're going to basically blackball him and put up this article. But we got to make sure that we delete our tracks first. But the fact is that the internet is forever, and we remember your crimes, Salon.
And you know what? And to be honest, hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, I don't know why I can't hear myself. But I'll fix that. But what I would do basically is, do you think he's going to sue someone? Because this is defamation of character as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Very good point.
I'm sure there's going to be some type of civil suit or something. Milo would. He said that he'd rather grab a pussy than be one, and I understand, it's funny. The truth. He's never backed down. He's always stood up for himself. And even Rolling Stone just put out an article saying Milo Yiannopoulos isn't going away. And that's a great point.
What saddens me, though?
What's that?
What saddens me is that potentially, because he even admitted, okay, maybe I came across too flippantly, because again, the problem is we've gone to the point where we overanalyze everything. So even if somebody is making a joke about, even today, like a joke about pedophilia or rape, those are bad topics, but what comics understand, what people with a good sense of humor understand, is that sometimes we have to approach a topic that's difficult to discuss with humor so that we can finally approach it and recognize it for what it is. And humans are very, very strange and particular, beings. And sometimes they, when something horrible is happening, they laugh because the human reaction genetically is a very difficult thing, and it works in a very interesting manner. So although this guy was a victim of sexual abuse, he is able to actually find some comedic value in that to try to, first of all, make it clear that pedophilia is wrong, and he's done that, but also sort of like joke around it. He's a Catholic, and he totally recognizes and understands that there was a pedophile epidemic in the Catholic Church. He doesn't excuse it. He actually comes out against it, but he actually, again, being a victim of abuse, He's able to joke about it. That's a person that is trying to move on, and maybe their comedy isn't easily understood, but they aren't advocating pedophilia.
Dave, speaking really quick too, he said about the abuse, that happened to him. He said, "You know what? I'm grateful for Father Michael. I wouldn't give nearly such good head if it wasn't for him."
No, well, that was when he was joking around with it. I mean,
no, I know, but you're
that's
saying
a way of him saying, I had
a coping
to deal with this
mechanism
particular.
for sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's a coping mechanism, but he's able to. I mean, some people. Quite honestly, I don't understand how some people, have to deal with rape and they continue to live, because quite honestly, some people have clearly committed suicide. And if you have the strength to continue from that, you are an amazing person. So again, for someone to be able to move through and past that victimization of being raped, that's really commendable. And people don't guys, people overlook that.
I mean, guys, I hate to, I know this might not be the right forum, but basically, I know that it's hard to do it, but I'd like to come out with a story. And I mean, basically, I was raped by the government. So, I'm sorry.
I think that we can all, hug ourselves, because I think we've all felt that pain.
Yeah, the damn Uncle Sam got me. They got me
every year in April.
Well, normally I get money back. This is going to be the first year where holy shit. Things are going to go the other way this year, but whatever.
Well, all joking aside, though, I've dealt with, family molestation abuse, not to myself, but to, someone very close to me. And, I can understand how much it impacts people's lives and how terrible it is and how much it destroys a family. And, it's a terrible situation to be involved in. And, it's not something that's easily discussed or dealt with. So for Milo to admit what happened, I commend him entirely. It's a lot to go through, and unfortunately, it's not going to get easier. It's not going to become something that goes away. And I feel like he was vilified and definitely deserves to have this situation rectified. It's not right. I pity him for all that he's had to go through, unfortunately.
So basically, I mean, when it comes down to this guy, just because you hate somebody or you don't like people's viewpoints, it doesn't matter what side. You don't just start believing everything and calling them pedophile. Oh, he's a pedophile, like Jose did in those comments to you. It's like this guy
started to that guy.
What did Keemstar do?
Called the guy a pedophile.
Oh, the old guy that wasn't a pedophile. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, these sorts of allegations can lead to major damage to individuals, and it should never be something that people just react to automatically. I mean, it's a horrible thing. That crime is a horrible thing. But if we start to believe that everyone's a pedophile, then thousands of lives are going to be ruined. I mean, we have to do the proper research and figure out what really happened.
Well, at one point, all these fucking drama channels were calling everybody a pedo. It was getting fucking enraging. Under A and Keemstar and Leafy, and everyone's a pedo, and soon everyone will be a pedophile, and then it won't even matter. There won't be pedophiles anymore because everyone's a pedophile. So that's what was going on in that culture. But now it's going on with these mainstream liberals who just don't even care. They'll just call people a pedophile. I used to do it with Republicans. I would do it myself. I would just call people things because I heard that's what they did,
Really.
And then eventually someone says, "But look at this," and then you're like, you don't believe it. Almost, it's like, even though you're being shown the facts, you just laugh it off and go, haha, whatever, and then you go back to thinking exactly the way you did, even though somebody showed you the facts. Now with Milo, we don't know. But I'm not going to call him a pedophile yet because he didn't do anything yet to me that's, he didn't, where's the pictures of him, with kids and stuff? Where's the proof of this? There is no proof of this, and there's no video of him saying, I support pedophilia.
Exactly.
The only time pedophilia came up in that video, he basically said, well, if you're talking about pedophilia, that's different. This is pedophilia. What I'm talking about is this. So he didn't even go into that being anything that he was interested in. So the fact that he's being called that is ridiculous.
Now, here's another extremely important thing that people need to take into consideration. Now, I do not endorse this at all. And I think, quite honestly, that the full extent of the law should come down on these people. But we've seen countless, and I mean countless instances where we've got like a 20-something-year-old female teacher who ends up hooking up with a 13, 14-year-old boy. That's totally wrong. She should know better. But we find out basically through the court transcripts that it was the boy that initiated the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't make it right that the female fell for that because she was old enough. She was an adult, and she clearly should have known what was fucking wrong.
Right.
But are we going to disexcuse the 14-year-old guy who kept pursuing it and kept pushing it and was, I don't know, hitting on some wife that wasn't getting it from her husband or something? I mean, I can't judge that situation, but the biggest thing is there's two guilty parties in that. It's not just one.
Exactly.
So you can't just excuse the 14-year-old kid who knows how to fucking play. He's a player and he's fucking doing it. You know, we can't just excuse, him and not the teacher. They're both fucking guilty if that's the case. Now, there are situations where the teacher has groomed the child like an actual pedophile and actually has, taken advantage of them. And again, those people need to feel the full extent of the law. In all cases, but we can't at certain points excuse one individual but not excuse the other. I mean, either you're all guilty or you're not.
Exactly. It can't be some for one and all for none.
Oh, it's very gray area. It's a dangerous area of this name calling.
Yeah, but why is it that in that situation with the female teacher who's older and takes advantage of the younger kid, it's acceptable when the older man takes advantage of the child, of the female child, is not acceptable? In both cases, it's unacceptable. But why is it the society is more willing to overlook the women to the point where they come out with no charges in court when the man will be fully charged as he should be? I mean, It has to be equal on both sides.
Because it isn't equal, and they think that the woman is more helpless somehow because it's a woman. So they treat it that way, even though they want all women and men to be treated equally. That doesn't happen.
And ladies and gentlemen, there you are, bared clear of the hypocrisy of what is pedophilia in Western society. It's okay if the woman is older, but not okay if the man is older.
Well, what if the gay man is older? Because that's what Milo Yiannopoulos is. So you would think that the gay man who's older this guy would get like praise and stuff because but because I think the left people that defend gays for their own agenda that secretly actually hate gay people, they're loving to hate this guy. Because this is what they really hate the whole time.
And it's so funny because it's so noticeable from the left, the virtue signaling left. We're like, yeah, we support gay rights, but in secret they're like, fuck gays and this and that. And I mean, it's so obvious that they're just using them as pawns. I mean, with the Pulse shooting, again, you had a bunch of people from the left coming out, oh, this is, a
travesty and could never happen again, and we have to find a solution.
And Milo spoke out about that too, where people were like, where the left was trying to ignore what was really going on, which was basically Islam saying we don't like gay people and they need to die. So, the virtual signaling left will always try to make an excuse to try to, convince themselves
I don't even agree with
what
you
they're doing is right.
I don't agree with what you just said, but I agree. The virtue signaling is all over the place. It's running fucking rampant right now. Now, I don't agree with what you just said, that was something with Islam attacking. That was a radical, maybe psychotic person who went in there and did something crazy who
was Islamic, whose father attended a Clinton rally and then basically said that Clinton supports Afghanistan and that he supports what his son did. I mean, we can make that another episode.
Yeah, well, you're right. It is the family. Obviously, this family tree is fucked, and these people
just like
are
the
terrorists.
one from Boston. Because I'm not going to forget that one either.
Oh, that guy didn't have a family. That's why they did that. These two guys, the Boston bombing, these two guys blew things up because they had no guidance. It was these two, and they created their own world, basically, and they had no guidance. The parents didn't want anything to do with them until all of a sudden after.
Just a pair of lone wolves?
Well, I don't know. That's what they say. No. I mean, unless the parents sent them there to do it. I mean,
they even portrayed them in the movie as, constantly watching Islamic.
No, see, the term lone wolf is a hypocrisy, and it's a double. It's redundant because the fact is there's never a lone wolf. They're always following one book.
Well, I always believe that it's people who decided to actually act on terrible things that are involved in the group that they support. So,
when was the last time that you saw a Jew stone somebody because they committed adultery? Or what was the last time you saw a Christian basically put out a homeless person because they didn't have money?
No, the Jews are too busy controlling the whole country with all their money and going after people like PewDiePie and silencing anybody who doesn't agree with them.
Yeah, that too. But
I wouldn't go that far to say the Jews.
Well, Disney.
If you want to isolate everybody's religion and stereotype them into something, I mean, into an evil. I mean, we could stereotype everybody into some kind of evil.
Yeah, it's funny how the new version of Disney is
the whites, the Catholics. We could really you could do that with everybody. So every time somebody, does something bad from any of those groups, you could basically, you could call them out for whatever their religion or whatever the thing is. I mean, right now that's
speak obviously.
I mean, are Jewish people going to start doing like what you just said, like car bombing people? It's like probably not. They're more likely going to swindle someone out of some money or something, or take them to fucking court.
No, but I think that's more of a strawman argument because, again, we were talking about punishing people based on what's said in the text. And in the Old Testament, it says, stone somebody for committing adultery. And I don't think I've seen a Jew or even heard of a report of a Jew stoning somebody for adultery in the 20th century. Now, granted, we've seen that with Islam, but that's a different story. So we've got to obviously you have your concerns.
No, I mean I don't. I was just making shit up to try to make a sort of a point, I guess. But no, you're right. I mean, it's the most. I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying, and I get it's not always a lone wolf. You got to look at the big picture and connections. You got to at some point things add up, right?
Exactly.
We did start on Milo, and let's just finish off with Milo because again, this discussion could go in a totally different direction as always. But Milo, I think, to summarize my point, is I think Milo has come out many times, and I was very concerned with the headline that came out with this whole pedophilia affiliation and so forth. But once I started to look at all the evidence, and again, that was a video I saw over a year ago. Why is this only coming out now that they're outraged when everyone knew about this over a year ago? Things started to come together, and with my research and
because he was on Bill Maher to me.
Well, actually, that's a very good point because if you really want to know the truth, I'm looking at the screenshot right now. A day prior to this big attack on Milo, on Reddit forums, there was a particular anonymous individual who posted information that indicated that he was involved essentially with a mailing list that was part of what's called the Never Trumpers, which is, they want to take Trump. They're Republicans mostly, but they want to take out Trump from his presidency.
How old
so
Milo?
They announced. So basically, this guy, preempted the whole situation and announced they're going to attack Milo. They're going to try to label him a pedophile. These are all the things that they're going to try to do. This is why it's going to happen, and you can expect these sorts of reactions from the mainstream media, and it's played out piece by piece. I've got this screenshot. I will post it later on my Twitter.
How old is Milo? How old is Milo? Do you know?
Milo is 31, I believe.
Damn it. Well, anyway, guys, we have to go with this. From now on, everybody, I am 17 years old. No, I'm 20 years old. I'm 20 years old, and Milo raped me when I was 14, and we're going to go with this whole story. I'm going to become a millionaire.
Yeah, really.
Well, that's one way to cash in the victim lottery.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, Milo touched me. We had piano classes. I was over in Great Britain. It'll be great. No, but I mean, seriously, aren't you waiting for that? Aren't you waiting for somebody now to come out and be like, it was me? Just someone's going to come out and say that, yes, Milo
just
touched
like
me.
all those people that supposedly were going to come out against Donald Trump, that he raped them, and then at the last moment they disappeared and we never heard about them again.
At all, ever.
Well, and that could be where Tom Arnold is going with the whole, and I know I've been joking a lot on the end of this episode, but, it's like the Tom Arnold saying he has a tape of Trump doing the most racist stuff, unbelievable, and
what?
Hillary
if that's
Clinton
the case,
him.
It would have been bought out as soon as Trump announced his candidacy. They would have bought it from him, and they would have aired it already.
Well, he says
considering
he's
the fact that all we heard about from the guy was basically he'd grab a pussy.
Yeah, really.
It goes to show there's basically no dirt on this guy, or he's just so good, better than the fucking CIA, that he's been able to hide his fucking dirt so well that no one's been able to air it.
Well, that's what Tom Arnold said.
Doubt.
Tom Arnold was like,
absolutely.
yeah, there's
the
no way.
CIA's fucking powerful.
This shit would have came
this
out.
Guy, the only dirt he's got is he grabbed the pussy. Big deal. Let's move on.
I mean,
right there.
God, imagine if they had me on recording, because I mean, like, I've said some crazy things that I didn't mean, but I was just talking shit in the locker room and stuff. It's like if you grabbed anything out of context from locker room type talk, I mean, oh my God, I might have said I'm gonna kill my mother with a fucking you know what I mean? I've been in the locker room and someone said, hey, yeah, I'm living with my mom still and she's on my case all the time, blah 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 blah. And then someone else says like, yeah, my mother always pisses me off. She calls me da da da. And then I would say like, yeah, well you know what I do? I slap my mother. When my mother talks up, I just slap her in the fucking face.
Yeah.
And then everybody laughs and blah, blah, blah. But imagine if some guy was recording that, and then like years later I'm doing something for a company or running for office, and someone plays that on YouTube or something, and it's like me going
out of context, as they've done before in the past to you, Joe.
Yeah, I'll slap my fucking mother in the face like she's a bitch. Like, and then it's like, oh my God, oh my goodness.
That's a great point, because people are always looking out to try to blackmail somebody with some recording that's been taken out of context.
Right. I know me.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's what happens, and that's what happened with that. That's why I didn't even, like, it's like, all right, like, if you get a private conversation with him and he's like, listen, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you, Mike. Like at an office meeting or somewhere, and he's like, listen, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't fucking like whoever, putting your person of color, of fucking race or something, and Donald Trump says, I just don't like these fucking blah, 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 blah. And we're going to fucking do this and we're going to do that because I can't stand they fucking stink and they smell, and this is what they fucking do, and I don't like them. Like, if you catch that tape, like, okay, well,
that's money.
That sort of tape is like,
fucking problem.
Like, wait a minute, this was his private conversation. He's sort of giving his feelings. That is when it's like, oh, like, that might be fucked up.
Well, that's when it really reveals an aspect of the character. But when you're, again, when you're like trying to up a guy that you're talking to, and again, guys know this and girls know it too. Yeah. That when you're trying to, make your story, sound bigger, you're going to fucking do things that and say things that will make your story sound, impeccable.
This was Trump saying, like, my dick's bigger than yours. Like, that's what that conversation
basically
was.
It's like, I can get more chicks than you can. No, I can get more chicks than you can.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
And that's typical talk of rich people or popular people like these guys. Like, this is what they do.
Exactly. When you're successful, like, quite honestly, when you're successful and you've got your name on fucking buildings, of course there's going to be bitches that want to fucking fuck you, because again, they don't view themselves as anything but fucking a cum dumpster. I mean, let's be honest. They
got to put in a couple of Tic Tacs. You just start kissing them.
I am so happy that I just heard cum dumpster on this show. I can't tell you.
I thought I'd shake it up a bit.
Well, we got to get out of here. I mean, to end on cum dumpster, but I mean, in the end, when you prove to me that Milo's a pedophile, then we'll talk. But right now, this is circumstantial and borders, I believe,
and more importantly,
defamation.
We should wait. We should wait until all the evidence is out.
Yeah, I want to see those bitches.
If Milo's a pedophile, I will denounce him, and I will fucking tweet this stuff out. But let's just wait until all this information is out, because quite honestly, this fits the MO, quite honestly, of the fake news. They constantly make these attacks to try to character assassinate somebody in an attempt to silence them. Mm-hmm. And when it comes so coincidentally with somebody's success, when they're actually starting to reveal what's going on, it becomes too questionable. So let's wait until all the facts are out.
And if somebody says, how can you support Milo? How can you believe that? I'll tell you how I can believe it, because it's already a fact. The fact is, the guy called Leslie Jones ugly, like a dog or something, and was banned from Twitter. And the narrative around that was because he's a racist. So and that's false. So that's already been done once to him there, and it's been done countless amounts of time. But now here's another one. So I'm sorry. This is why the whatever sides are attacking him are failing, because you are creating the boy who cried wolf mentality around Milo. So now whenever someone criticizes him or says he might be guilty of something, I don't actually believe it yet, because you have done this to him about many other things. And honestly, to me, he's a victim. I look at him as a victim at this point.
Repeatedly.
Right. And Bill Maher and him did great the other night. I enjoyed it. We could break down that whole thing. I was going to do it, but you know what? We hit a fucking point. We got to get out of here. But I thought it was brilliant. I thought they were both good. I think they built. I think some people from the left side were surprised that Bill took it so easy on him. Sometimes I think some people from the right might have called him a cuck or something because he fucking tried to molest Bill Maher. But I think those are two guys who can come together and have a debate. Who's the pussy that left the show, that didn't come? Remember, someone was supposed to come on the show and they left because Milo was there? That is a problem. That is the type of person that you don't want in this country. Somebody who just backs away from the table. If you believe that he's doing something, come on the show and let's talk about it. You just back off the show because you wussed out? What kind of coward is that? I don't even know who the guest was or whoever, but they're a coward. Bill Maher was not a coward. Neither were the people that Milo... I didn't agree with them, the panel on the left. Most of the people on the panel I didn't agree with. I also didn't agree with when Milo basically said something like they were all stupid or something like that. I didn't really quite get that. I think he was just doing that for shock value. But they also they also weren't the fucking smartest people in the world either. But it was a good show, and I enjoyed him, and I think that's why you're seeing more of an attack on him than ever. And some of the delusion that I see from both sides, to be honest, is incredible. And even some of the delusion that's been coming on the alt-right, some of the alt-right stuff now has been very delusional about Trump. They are not criticizing him in some cases when he needs to be criticized, despite all the things that he's doing good and right. So I have my ears open to that now, too, because it seems that he can do no wrong. Meanwhile, the left side would paint him as Hitler.
And some of the alt-right is criticizing him when they shouldn't be, when it comes to false alternative news.
Right.
So there's divisions on both sides of the political spectrum, both on the left and both on the right. Because when you think alt-right, and I told Joe this the other day, there really isn't one right. There's a splinter of different groups that would consider themselves on the right side of the political spectrum. And one of those groups is the alt-right, but it's not all of them.
Well, there you go, guys. Thanks for joining me, Jake, Dave Rose, and myself. This is Shame on News. More podcasts like this as we've been doing. Click the subscribe button down below. Don't miss out on the news. And share this video everywhere you can and pump it out there for us and give us a subscribe if you like it. Hit the bell and check back for videos every other day or so. Thanks for listening.
Stay tuned for more news right here on Shame on News.